I have a maybe 1 hour window before it starts raining again. It's a Sunday afternoon. I haven't been on my bike for 4 or 5 days, and it's going to rain for a couple of more days at least, so figured I would take the opportunity. It's a little chilly right now, but yeah, I give up trying to forecast this year. After a couple more days of rain, it's supposed to be down in like the mid 40s or something crazy. So I had to tell you a quick story. I went down to the dealership where I bought my lowrider one day last week. It was actually 1 month to the day that I bought the new bike. And one of the reasons I went down there was because they had my old Sportster up for sale. I saw it on the website as of about a week ago. And I was curious what they did to it. It needed a repair on the front fender, as you may know, because of rust. I was not sure if they were going to have it repainted or just replace the fender. So that was one thing I was curious about. It needed a new front tire. I had a new rear tire on it, an American Elite, and I had the matching front tire. I just hadn't installed it. So when we were working out the deal of the trade-in, I told them I would give them the tire so they didn't have to deduct value off the trade for that. And so that was fine. So I gave them the tire and the inner tube and everything they needed. And there were a couple other things they said that it needed rocker box gaskets, which I think was a bunch of hooey, but it was something they used to offer me less in trade. So whatever, you know, I'm happy with my new bike, and you know, obviously I would have been happier if the numbers were better, but it worked out, so no crying over spilled milk. But I just wanted to see what they did with my old bike, take a couple pictures, and that was kind of like the end of the chapter. So I ride down there on my lunch break, and there she is sitting in the showroom. I go up to it and I examine the front fender, and much to my surprise, well, there she is. And they didn't do jack to the fender. It still has rust on it. That is hilarious. Yeah, they didn't do anything. It still had my ghetto touch-up paint on the back side of the fender near the frame, and the paint was still bubbled up on the front. And I'll tell you why this is, it shouldn't surprise me, but I'll tell you why, I'll tell you why right now. So I bought that bike 3 years ago for $4,900, and it had 6,000 miles on it. They now have it on the showroom floor for $54.95. Yes, $600 more than I paid. It now has 30,000 on it instead of 6,000. It has a rusty front fender, and they slapped a price on it that is 150% more than they gave me in trade. So I was like, what? Like, you didn't even fix it? It gets better. The front tire is still the old front tire. You could get maybe 500 miles out of that front tire before it's done. I was checking it after every ride, watching it get closer and closer to the wear bars. So I can't understand how a dealership is selling this bike with a tire that's going to need to be replaced in like a month. I just don't get it, you know, especially since I gave them the tire. You know, it would take them about a half an hour of labor. So I seriously doubt they changed the rocker box gaskets. And then as I was looking at it, something else jumped out at me. I always used the K&N oil filter, which is obvious because it has on the filter itself, it has something that looks like a nut, which you can attach a socket to and easily loosen the filter. Now, the Harley filters look more like a traditional car filter. They're just smooth, and you would have to use an oil filter wrench. You couldn't just use a regular socket. So when I looked at it and I saw the K&N filter, I think it's pretty obvious that that's my filter. And because a Harley dealer, why would they be putting K&N filters on their bikes? That just doesn't make any sense to me. And the bike I just bought didn't have a K&N filter on it. And quite honestly, neither did any of the other bikes I looked at, now that I think about it. So I'm like, when I traded it in, I was like 500 miles shy of needing an oil change, and I told them that. So, and you know, that was the thing. You know, they're going to do all the service, the 30,000 mile service, blah, blah, blah. And it honestly looks like they didn't do anything, even the oil. Or worse, they changed the oil and didn't change the filter. I don't know. But it left a really bad taste in my mouth. Setting aside the fact that it was my old bike and, you know, there's all the nostalgia or whatever, you know, set that aside for a minute. First, it's just like, what's right? Doing what's right. And to me, selling a bike for a jacked up premium price, doing what's right means doing the services that are needed to the bike before you sell it. So that's just one thing. But now I'm thinking about my bike that I just bought from them. And immediately I'm like, wait a minute, what is the deal with my bike? So I can tell it has a fresh oil change, but does it have a new oil filter? Or did they reuse the one that's on there? I mean, that would be insane to me. And the other thing, they told me they did all the fluids, the three primary, you know, the primary, transmission, and oil. When I pull out the dipstick for the transmission, it has a pink, smelly oil. It's new, or rare, pretty close to new, but it's not Harley Formula One oil. It turns out it's a very popular brand. The name escapes me, Red something or other. And that's not something that a dealership would normally carry and put in bikes. So I'm wondering, did they notice that the previous owner put that transmission fluid in not too long ago and just decided to leave it? That's okay if that's what they did, but it would have been nice if they told me that. Now then, there's also the primary oil, which I can't really check without pulling off covers or something. So basically, it really undermined my trust in what they said they did to my new bike. Because if you're that shoddy or cheap with the bike I just traded in, you know, obviously it's going to open a lot of questions in my mind. So that's kind of where I am with that. And I'll probably never know the answers. So I think what's going to end up happening is I'm probably going to be changing some fluids on my bike and the oil filter a lot sooner than I otherwise would have. And that's not the end of the world, but it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth, to be sure. It would really be cool if I could communicate with whoever buys my old bike, because there's things about that bike that only I know that I would like to tell them, like about how it's tuned and things like that. And by the same token, I would love to talk to the guy who owns my lowrider, because there's things that I'd like to know about it that only he knows. But that's just the way it goes, you know. So that's me just squeezing in a ride before the heavens open up for their almost daily downpour. I hope everybody's doing well. Till next time.